Okay. Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to the Belgium Village Board meeting, 7 o'clock, Monday, March 13th, 2023. We have a roll call of officers.
I'm Deb from Landline. Sarah Heiss, Chris Clear, Howard, and Dan Moore.
Open meeting law compliance check. We all please stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have any public input? If not, we'll move on to Belgium Area Chamber of Commerce report. Okay. Then we'll move on to the village marshal report.
Well, for February, it wasn't that busy of a month. They had only issued 14 parking tickets. They had 1 dumpster violation and 4 sidewalk warnings they had to give out to get their snow off the sidewalks, and 1 barking dog complaint. That's pretty much it for the month of February.
Okay. Then we'll move on to 7B, recognize Mike Boachek for 14 years of service on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Mike, I'd like to present you with a certificate of appreciation.
Oh, please.
A great deal of thought went into it.
Who's that from? Me.
Okay, then we'll move on to 7C, staff reports. Danny, could you give us an update on the
Just
park?
giving you an update on our park project, moving on pretty good. The electrician was in here today, he's probably got a half a day's worth of work yet to do. When we start painting the walls in the bathrooms, we have plumber coming in next week. All the ceilings are in with a plaster, and guy put the plaster on. I met with Brian Beekler and Josh Gordon to get some pricing on hard surface around the buildings and around the whole park area. So I think everything is falling into place, so if the weather would warm up, we should be able to get her done by the second week in May. So, if you got any questions, I mean, you guys are more than welcome to come down there, the doors are always open, the temporary doors on there. So now would be a good time to come down there, there's not much activity going on, so if we got a couple of free minutes, come down there and walk around, so. If you got any questions?
Thank you.
It's looking really nice.
Yeah, it is.
Every, all the people who walk by, they stop at it, they're really happy with it, they thought that was a good project that we did, they're really are. So, you guys done a good job.
Okay, any questions for Danny? Okay, and we'll move on to the consent agenda items. I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from the February 13th village board meeting. And if you guys all seen the samples of the Main Street 2023 banner in your packet.
Yep.
I'll make a motion, we approve them.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 9A, update and possible action regarding proposed extraterritorial CSM for minor land division, parcel number 102-101-00200, located in the town of Belgium. Item was tabled from February 13th village board meeting. As far as I know, there was no more information given to us, so No action needed. Move on to 10A. Approve Belgium Area Chamber of Commerce Tourism Entity Budget.
That the chamber has a separate entity called the tourism entity that receives our tax, room tax funds, and they have to prepare a budget because we have to file a report every year. And it has to be approved by the governing body. And there's nothing, I reviewed it, I didn't see anything that stood out as unusual, so, having said that, I move that we approve the 2022, 2023 tourism budget.
I'll second.
Motion's been made in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10B, approve Finance and Personnel Committee's recommendation that a property reevaluation be commenced fall of 2024 for a reporting year of 2025. Somehow down the road, we've seemed to fall behind on our evaluations, so we need to get them back up to where they belong.
And the goal for waiting until the commencing for fall of 2024, because we could start it now, is that the accountant figured that things would, the assessor figured that things would even out, the market would even out, and we'd get a more honest assessment by waiting until fall of 2024. We are still in compliance, we're very near the edge of that.
After 4 years in the role,
revenue that we have 4 years of non-compliance. And then, that continues, and after a 5-year period, we'll get a second notice of non-compliance. If nothing is done, then after 6 years, or after 5 years of non-compliance, the Department of Revenue would issue an order for supervisors. After 6 years.
And we're year 3?
We're in three.
Well, I move to approve Finance and Personnel Committee's recommendation that a property reevaluation be commenced for fall 2024 for reporting year 2025.
No second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10C, approve Finance and Personnel's recommendation that the village not purchase additional coverage specifically for flood insurance.
So this is insurance we previously had and are electing not to renew.
No, I don't believe.
We covered, but our, Continental Western Group that provides our property liability, no longer is providing that coverage.
And it is not something that's customary and usual in the area with other communities to have it. And any damage done by sewage or the water plant would be covered under existing policies. So it's basically, we're in a low risk zone, so why, if we could find coverage, it would be at an exorbitant cost. So
So no change in the liability really.
basically, not to my understanding. Okay, I move to approve Finance and Personnel's recommendation that the village not purchase additional coverage specifically for flood damage.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Or whoever will. We're just
Motion's
making-
been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10D, approve remote meeting ordinance number 01-23.
Finance personnel maybe reviewed, and they chose the more basic one, and, Brad drafted, an ordinance.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We approve remote meeting ordinance number 01-23.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10E, approve request from Family Sharing of Ozaki County to place food donation barrels in Village Hall lobby on spring election day, April 4th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10F, approve ATV, UTV road route links on the portion of the county roads that are within the village as requested by Lakeshore ATV, UTV Club. The only one that really concerns us is on Highway KW. There's about maybe 500 feet that goes right before Silver Beach, just to connect up to Silver Beach Road. I think there's one house in there and that's it. So they're just asking to connect more roads together, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the ATV UTV road route on the portions of county roads that are within the village as requested by Lakeshore ATV UTV Club.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10G, discuss and take action regarding intermunicipal agreement for the provision of advanced life support, ALS paramedic level services. Yes,
Yep, so this is the third draft now. I think most of them have been routed previously to the board. So hopefully this isn't the first time anyone's been reading through this. There was some advice from our legal counsel to add some couple of insurance language, which I think is in there, I believe, I saw.
Yes.
So we've asked some representatives also from the village of Fredonia to be here if there's any questions. I know that given the cost involved, there might be some, but outside of the cost, is there anything else in the agreement that anyone has any questions on or concerns with in terms of?
Well, the
How
only
it's laid out
concern
today.
I have is since I just received the highlighted draft, is there anything within the highlighted portions that are new or changed since the previous version?
Sure. The only thing new is what's highlighted there. The reason you're kind of receiving it late is that the timeline, the village of Fredonia were the first ones to adopt this agreement. They adopted it as is, as you guys last saw it. And the town of Fredonia took it up, and they are the ones who adopted it, on adding the language that you see here. So what the language does is that prior, the EMS budget was calculated purely based off of population, on a 10-year basis on this based on census. What it now does is it bases it in an equal weighted form between the call out the previous year population and the equalized value of improvements. So on an annual basis, we would weigh all three of those measures to determine what's a fair equal share between four of the space and strategy. So in the town's perspective, they felt that while population was a fine metric, it just doesn't gather all of the data, right? There might be some years where call volumes will be really high and some will be really low. So being able to have all three of these try to capture all of that. So after that, that's when I jumped on the phone with our village president in the village of Fredonia, who had just passed their agreement. He was fine with that language, and then I shot it off in the email to each of the presidents and the chairman. So this is the newest version of the only change that you're seeing before you.
So it looks like even with the change, adding the call volume, it looks like the percentage breakdown didn't jump at all. Didn't change.
Well, that percentage breakdown is just based on the population. So that.
Okay.
This,
Oh, I see. Okay.
this percentage for payment, that doesn't go into effect till January of 26, right?
Maybe we can talk a little bit about that and then it'll lead you to your next, part of your conversation. So funding wise, fingers crossed, if all something from the county are true, we're funded in this agreement for the next 3 years. Which gives each municipality 3 years to kind of figure out, okay, if we really want to stick with this, how are we going to fund it? The caveat there is that the county is very upfront in their application, say, hey, please let us know how much money you might need after the 3-year mark. And we will be very upfront, and the chief can speak to it, that we'll politely ask for whatever that difference of dollars ends up being. Because in our mind, this is, we want to see the team, whether it's with all of the salaries or even 1 or 2, be able to contribute to the.
So again, that's their plan A, for the county, that's county fund this, right? And then plan B is what you have in front of you, if the county says, yeah, we can't do it.
Correct.
Okay. I think everybody would agree that that's not plan A.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see if we give us money first.
How, Brian, because I'll give an idea of like how soon we would know if the county will be funding it or not from the planning purpose.
I don't know. I think the county budget's up 2 years, right? All the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Is it something
I
that,
would say the next year and a half.
is it something that they would maybe even just like partially fund? Or, okay, I'm just curious if it would be like, if it's all or nothing, I mean, is it
Look,
something?
yeah,
that-
we asked.
Right,
Thing.
so they may give us 150,
This
right,
Worst case scenario.
right, yeah, okay,
But all that regardless, we still have the 3 until 2025, right?
Yes, we have 3 years.
We have 3 years of coverage already.
right,
So what we're asking for approval on today is this is basically our sustainability plan that we have to submit to the county to say, we have a plan between the village of Fredonia and
Mhm.
the municipalities of Fredonia and Belgium that we have agreed on. Although over the course of the next 3 years, if anything changes, we can revisit this before it's
right,
final and needs to be spent and budgeted.
okay,
So I think I read in here that after 3 years, there'll be like a once a year a review on everything.
Yeah, we had talked, Chris had talked about every year coming in front of you, explaining what all happened, all volumes, and then just giving an annual report to you.
And then,
And then at any one time that any municipality sees something wrong, we bring that whole group together, that's been meeting on a monthly basis, and that group together with people representing.
right, so the one,
Rediscuss.
And nothing's set in stone forever.
Yes.
Right. right, okay,
so I only went to a couple meetings, but once the program's set, I'm sure you're gonna be charging more for the paramedic if they have to come out versus just a lift assist. Is there gonna be like a separate account for that? I mean, cause I'm sure that's gonna be charged more than the basic, right? Is there gonna be a separate account for over and above?
So there's actually a completely separate fund. So just like, I'm sure you guys practice fund balance accounting, there will literally be a separate fund dedicated for this purpose. So there's no other intermingling of assets. Between the municipalities.
And also in 2025, would we still be paying what are we paying you, $22,000 a year for ambulance service? Would that still be plus everything else?
Until 2025.
Yeah.
And in 2026, that all changes.
right,
Well, then you get down to that percentage, huh?
right,
But then that shuts off that other?
Right.
Oh, okay.
that's not on top of, yeah, that's what I was wondering too.
Okay, anybody got any more questions?
Well, because the county is part of this. Well, the fire department is not.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I thought. I mean, okay.
Okay,
Between the two entities.
There is no municipality law.
Do you have any concerns?
Some of us didn't know that.
Brad, you got something?
Just looking at the highlighted board, just can you explain what happened, from earlier draft on the capital equipment financing? What's changed from the two?
Yep. Let me just look at it. Yeah, it's happening, okay, thanks. The language of how the CIP is created, I think, it's just stating that the formula for allocating dollars for this mirror formula, that's why it's left with section 2A to 1. But it's stating that the formula is broken down again, weighted through the 3 categories. That makes sense. And maybe there's a better way to say it, but that's the legal language that our attorney is using.
And as far as capital budget goes, what about levy limits, in the event the building or new equipment, new building or something, looking at contribution, I'm just curious what is running the levy limit situation based on the building budget.
Brad's touching on what a number of my concerns were with regard to the budget. As I'm understanding this agreement, you as a board have no oversight of the budget. The budget is approved by the Village of Fredonia board. Same thing with the capital fund for the joint service. So, that's different from how you guys do the fire department budget now, where you have equal say in the budget. So by signing this agreement, you are agreeing to fund whatever portion, 33, 29, 33%, whatever, of that budget, whatever they decided is going to be. And you're going to have to make your budget work within that, which means if we have a levy limit and we have to pay that, you have to cut from somewhere else, because we cannot just raise taxes for that. So I just want to make sure the board is fully aware of the budget ramifications and that you are signing away any oversight to the Fredonia Village, which is something for you to decide if you want to do that or not. And the same thing with the capital budget. Theoretically, they could propose saving for a new ambulance every year. I'm not saying they're going to do that,
Right.
but you're ceding all those decisions to them.
And to your treasurer's point, I mean, this reads in a way that truly it is a operation run by the Village of Fredonia, and each of the municipalities are contracting.
Right.
So just, that's what you're touching on, so you're correct.
Well, right, but in a normal contract situation, like I will use, for example, the garbage collection contract, we signed a 10-year contract with them. They have limits on how much they can raise our fees every year before they would have to come back to us,
Okay.
a percentage raise. There is nothing like that in here. So if you sign this 10-year agreement with no limits, you have no say, they could do 10% increases every year and you would have no
Right.
recourse. Now, you can drop out after 5 years, but you still are tying yourself to 5 years.
Right.
So, I feel it's my obligation to point these things out to you.
So on the withdrawal, my understanding of the agreement reads that it's like the 5th year is the notice to withdraw, but that doesn't take place till the 10th year. Is that correct? It's the effect of withdrawal. The minimum term is 10 years, but the notice to withdraw is at the 5-year point.
Yeah, then the arrangement and mechanics would have to go through to function the withdrawal. 5 years. The budget that we're looking at as far as the lead agency, we would be engaged in a good deal of discussions to form that budget, and we would have to sit down with the other municipalities and make sure everyone can afford and agrees with and whatever the budget that we're proposing.
And I thought that it said in that, I'm wrong, I haven't read the last agreement, but I thought at one point in that agreement, it did say that we would have our budget, I would have my budget to our village in August already, and we'd be bringing it to you guys August or September to just show, here's where we're at.
Right.
Correct, and You know, I'm not,
You give
I'm
us-
not
you
trying
give
to
us
in
feedback.
any way discourage or board. I'm just saying that you're correct, you're presenting it, but they don't have. But or to. You know, or put a limit, you know, I mean, honestly, I mean, my recommendation would be that there at least be something saying if there's more than a certain percentage increase, each of the other jurisdictions has to sign off on it. You know, whether it be a 3-5%, something that is within normal contracts that state, you know, we're not gonna raise it more than this amount each year. And there's nothing in here stating amounts at all, and, you know, he had mentioned 320,000 or whatever. Our portion of that would be very nearly $100,000. That's gonna impact our budget significantly. Now, it may be many years down the road, but we don't know that for sure.
Right.
So, you know,
I mean, I guess when it comes to like the budget, like you putting your budget together, is that something where like you'll get together again with like, you know, the whole group that you guys got together with, that EMS group that you guys do with everybody on the villages? Is that something you do together, or is that something where, or like you could present it and say, hey, this is what,
You would do it at our level first.
Right.
It was to bring it here.
oh, bring it here, not do it with like the,
Share it at municipal
Okay.
meeting, right? That's the way I anticipate.
Okay.
That we would be here in August or September before you start your.
Your budget.
Purpose and say, here we
Okay.
go. This is-
So I guess what I'm hearing is the intent of that is clear. What Vicky is saying is, should we add some language as to, do we need to add some language as to
well,
solidify that?
they're presenting the budget to us in August, but we will know what we owe when we're doing our budget, but we won't have recourse. And so, you know, they can do what they want with it. That's what this agreement says. They can do what they want with it.
And then they can take it.
You have no
Which
oversight.
I didn't know that probably wouldn't be the case, but
No, I understand, again,
so good intent, should we have?
there are
legal
7
language?
members now that you need. But in 2 years.
Right, 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 and that's right, you're correct.
Brad, what do you think?
Well, again, I'm not familiar with all the, the budgetary numbers and what portion of this is, what percentage is part of the current budget and what projections are. I would assume that could be done where every municipality, kind of shows currently where their levels are at and what their contribution is. So then I think it would be easy to put in some sort of formula that says, okay, it shouldn't exceed this amount. If it does, it's gonna require some approval by this.
Each, yeah,
Yeah, and the concern would be, again, it's not suggested any other motives, but if you get a report in August, you're just getting a report. You have no veto power over it. And the question would be, capital improvements, you'd literally be contributing, again, I'm not sure of the new formula, but a significant percentage that would go to funding equipment, hospital buildings that would be titled and owned by the village of Fredonia. Now there's a formula on the end of this agreement that talks about liquidation and such upon termination and withdrawal, but that doesn't address. There's some complexities that come up if you have one party that wants to withdraw. Again, the withdrawal period, the way I read it, it's a notice at 5 years, but you're
still stuck
10-year
10
term.
years.
So if you have funding or financing from the county that you're earmarking for the next 3 years, I think you gotta look a little bit beyond that to make sure from it's not more legal, but from a financial standpoint, how the budget can support it, because you could get really lopsided quickly on your budget, how much is going to provide this level of service. And then you run into a situation where you can't increase, you've got levy limits, then you have to get a referendum approved to exceed the levy limits.
Right.
And the other concern that I had was, if we sign this agreement now, and we end up getting nothing from the county, we just signed a 10-year agreement with no funding that we have to then come up with for next year, if that's the plan. So, I mean, I don't see anything in here.
Next year, 2026.
The only dates I see in here are talking about the cycle of 2021 and 2030. I don't see anything here about funding starting in 2026. So
We're
unless
funded,
I'm missing,
so we are funded through 2025 instead of 2025 is unfunded. After that, it's gonna start.
Okay. And again, that may be the case, but that's not in this that I can see anywhere.
Well, 'cause they're different documents, but this document is our independent agreement. What she's talking about is the funding source, right?
So I guess what I'm saying is that, you know,
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe then this should be starting in 27, if we're funded through 26. Or
25.
25, starting in 26, because I don't read anything in here that says we aren't going to owe anything. Starting immediately, that's not in this document, so that might just be a correction that needs to be made.
Part of the grant requirement were that we construct agreements and get to a point where we can demonstrate to the grantor. When I'm into the future, when grant funds come out. That has to do with some of these agreements and whatever. There are numbers that we can't nail down right now. But this is not gonna work at all if it doesn't work for one of us or two of us. It has to work for all of us. And we all have to be in agreement, and we all have to talk to each other and make sure things are going along to make this work. Trying to put that into verbiage that's a lot of writing.
Well, actually, that was gonna be my next question. Now, let's translate this into action steps. Would we have, Chris, would we have Brad draft some language and then have your attorney vet it? And, because I do concede that I think having some proportionate limits on it is wise, so,
I mean, you're right, you have 7 board members in the village of Fredonia that we trust to do the right thing,
Right.
but in 2 years, that could be 7 different board members that we don't know. and
as
have
is
their
true
own
of our
agenda.
board as well, so.
Right, and true as ours too, right, so I feel like putting something in place is safe, just to, you know, I mean, I feel like we owe the village of Belgium that.
So the two things I heard was one, an effective date or something around the effectivity date of it, and then also budget increase limits or what's called levy limits.
I think the effective date can be now, but maybe just something explaining that funding will begin.
Funding would begin.
Right.
2026, just to clarify that point in the
Right.
agreement. And I think that simply some sort of limit saying that the budget each year will not exceed, you know, more than
X amount.
X, you know, 3%.
And if it does-
increase each year or 5%.
And if it does, have them come and explain why.
That you guys know, and the other, the other concern that I have was that, yes, you are funding equipment that is titled completely in their name. And that's
Right.
for, Brad can say whether that's wise or not, it was just something that I noted in there that you guys might want to consider.
I think
The
having
only
it,
other way around that,
right,
of not funding Village of Fredonia capital, would if you go down the route that our village administrator had gone the first time, was to completely dissolve all EMS services in Northern Lebanon County and create a separate total entity. And we're talking
that's crazy,
years
yeah,
to make that happen.
Yeah.
That's not something that's gonna happen like we did here within 3 months. That's
Right.
something that's gonna take time to do, and a lot of money.
Yeah.
And these are all, I mean, there could be something just basically saying that each board approves the capital schedule every so many years, or again, a limit on how much of an increase. You know, I don't know how you go about it. You know, the village right now funds the fire department's equipment, and that is titled in the fire department's name, so it's not necessarily a problem.
Right,
any
because we already do
different
it.
now. It's just, again, that you have no oversight over how much they decide to make that capital fund.
Right.
how much goes into it. They're gonna tell you, this is how much we need, and you're gonna pay it, unless there's some sort of oversight or limit put on that.
Does the village sit down with the fire department corporation regularly and say, well, yeah, I know you'd like to get a new truck or whatever, can you put that off for a year because we whatever? And do that type of thing with them so that there's a good flow between the corporate fire department and the village.
We set them a budget every year. So we meet with them in September. We say we need to operate this. Right now, we have a schedule of another equipment, based in the village, with money aside. Under town of that. So when the truck comes, you know, the town's gonna come up with the money.
Yeah.
So the village and the town and the fire department all have to vote and reach a majority on approving the
Well, the
budget.
fire
each
department
year.
don't vote on it, just.
Oh, the town and the village.
Yeah.
vote on the budget. Both have to agree, for it to be approved. You know, and I understand that with this many jurisdictions, you maybe, that's not necessarily gonna be feasible for this venture.
It's a lot of loose ends.
It is, but again, just simply putting in some sort of a cap on
Right,
things is where anything above that has to require approval from each of the. The fire department requires the board and town approval, so.
Right, but I mean, we don't get a cap from the village doesn't give the fire department a cap to say you can only raise your budget 5%.
No.
No,
I didn't-
no, because
Percent of budget.
if they raise.
We agree on it.
Right.
So if it's 5%.
I didn't know when we had, I didn't
The
know.
village and town agrees only 4, well, the fire department gets 4.
Well, that's just it, because we have the power to.
but here we're not
go
have, we
against
don't
it,
have the
but here
power.
don't.
We don't have the say so. And again, it goes back to that.
Okay, well, returning to the point at hand, sorry, Chris, returning to the point at hand, if we want to incorporate this capping, whatever you want to call it, provision, my understanding is that we're coming up against a time deadline. You have to present it to the county at a certain point that's sooner rather than later, so when would,
Beginning of May.
okay, so, we would need to
Get it
make a
now.
decision, vote on it, or wait until, and vote on our next, I mean, we could vote on our next, board meeting, but I'm just saying, we don't have, we
Right, you
we
can also-
don't have a forever to decide.
You can also have a special meeting, right? You can have a special meeting for that.
No,
yeah, we
no,
could have a
no, no,
special
that's-
meeting in 2
That's
weeks.
kind of where I'm going with
Right.
this, that we need to fish or cut bait.
Yeah, I think that's a better idea
The
too.
condition upon
That's what's been my proposal, so the
Right.
2 items of the, you know, when payment starts, or when we have to budget for it, and then the language around, budget approval annually. If we can add that in, I think we can.
I think there should be no
Fairly
reason why.
quickly, The trustee planner, actually, I have the effective date too, we want that in the language here. Payment start date of 2026. And then, yeah, I have a percentage not to exceed, so you tell me what that percentage is. And we'll-
Right, so we need to figure out, do we need to have a special meeting for that to figure out where we would want to put it?
I mean, I think.
Good, all right.
Like 10%.
They have an automatic. I'm not saying
Right.
2% is, no, I'm saying that's automatic. You're gonna do not to exceed without approval, you might wanna go a little higher. than 2%. You know, when you're talking about $100,000,
Right,
5% is
Can I ask-
$5,000.
can I ask your opinion as to what you think, cause you're the one doing the budget, I mean,
I was gonna spend 5%.
5%, I mean,
You're looking at this covering our salaries.
right,
Right.
that's where I mean, you're making the budget, so,
Everything else, you know, it's kind of self-sustaining, it's the salaries. that-
right,
So,
I was gonna say that the chief even did I think, a 3-year timeline of costs, and actually costs went down every year because obviously we had more initial costs.
Correct.
So I like to think that.
you know, but, right, times change too, inflation's changed, right, so, right. Well, and that's why I wanted to come to you is, like, that, I think 5%. I think 5%, All right, 5% is it.
Five.
5. 5.
Not to drag this out. The only other equipment fund, you know, are you guys opposed completely to the board's moving like a 5-year capital plan every 5 years or something? I mean, I think that would be reasonable, because then it puts limits on, you can't just come in and raise it next year, oh, we want a new truck, so we're gonna raise you know, that you will, that the committee will approve the initial one, and then every 5 years after the capital plan.
That's by majority approval, we have 4 municipalities. Right? But the village's side on one side, the town side on the other, how is that different?
Maybe a majority would take 3 of the 4.
Yeah, I think majority rule.
Should we spell that out?
Yeah, you better put that in there. You better put that in there too. Somebody's gonna get bucket. Yeah.
Yeah, we should understand, we're not talking. Just like an ambulance.
Yes.
Well, but you can't go, right, but you can't. They're right.
Sure.
So,
And so that's good for another 10 years.
right.
I
We
tend
need to have
to look at these things for
returns.
worst case scenario.
Right.
So is there any other points that we need to discuss? And Christoph, you kind of have the list of the language we want to put in. So we'll put off a vote on this until we see that revised.
And if we have to do a special meeting,
We have
let's
to
do a
special
special meeting, then
we'll
do a special meeting.
Hey, you need a delay
So
or
you are doing contingent on approval?
Oh, yeah.
I think with the level of changes we've asked for, let's see that draft first and not doing a contingent approval at this point. If
We'll
the
just
board
do,
agrees.
no, we'll just do a special meeting. I think we'll do it in, get that written up. If it's gotta happen next week or 2 weeks from now, then we'll do it right away. So then you'll have it, yeah. So I think it's, get the wording in there and let's do a special meeting just for that.
For clarification, the capital improvement plan and that approval process, is that outside of the 5% limit on operational?
Well, I guess in my mind, if they set a 5-year plan, then the amount is set for the next 5 years, and then every 5 years they would revisit it. If there were a change, each of the municipalities would have to change. So they need to be able to, they wouldn't be able to change.
To that note, then I would recommend we tie in that 5-year notice if the municipality wants to withdraw. Because if that 5-year capital plan is gonna be renewed or looked at, we should probably make sure that we have the opportunity to do so during that notice period. So if maybe, again, the other municipalities may not be to go through, want to get real aggressive on something that's beyond.
We're not in agreement.
Yeah, I know.
But from the youth standpoint, you've got to, we'll be here in 5 years.
Yeah, what we should also consider is something that goes to the it was, well, what are we gonna do if we don't drink? Or if this doesn't help?
Yeah. Well,
I think we know that answer.
we know the answer.
We know that answer.
Yeah.
And on the fire.
Gonna have to get a bigger stuff. Yeah, get a bigger stuff.
Coming from an
Okay,
independent
so-
point, we have a
Yeah.
choice.
So we'll hold final approval, just to keep this moving along. We'll hold final
Yep.
approval till we see the
The ridge,
draft.
and then we'll
Yeah.
do a
By
special
draft.
meeting.
If we have to hold a special meeting, we'll
Yep.
hold one, we'll decide at that time when we see the.
Yeah.
the revision.
Absolutely.
I think that's
That sounds good, I
Chris, you think
agree.
that could be put in the next week or so? Think that could be, that language all changed in the next week?
Oh,
Okay.
beautiful.
We'll do your tomorrow.
Can we do it in the next 5 minutes?
Can't do it tomorrow.
Okay, as soon as we get that, language change, we'll get everybody together and
And do a quick meeting on it. I think that's a good idea.
Yep.
I like
And
it.
then we'll get it back to you quick. Pretty sure. I know you'd like to have it back a couple weeks before
Yeah,
deadline.
oh, yeah,
Because I'm assuming now they're.
right, right, yeah. Ah, we're the jerks. There's always one in the bunch. Ah, good, all right. It just, oh, so they started it. All right, we're just following along.
Okay.
There's nothing in here for the data, which I.
They're random late.
So. Fine. You provide paramedic. First step to kind of like.
Kind of like you do with us
We
now.
have to do that. We would have to do that with the town.
Okay,
That's why.
okay. To include that.
But do that. Get some additional income, which would offer,
To lower the percentage for each, yeah,
but I gotta be careful how thin we spread our home because we gotta take care of our home first.
right. You're absolutely correct.
It's too big, too fast.
Nope, don't want that.
Okay, then we'll,
All right,
we'll table this for now until language gets changed and then we'll get everybody back together, sign it. And hopefully we can move on. So thank you guys very much for coming.
thank you.
We need a
You need a motion?
Oh,
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to table it. Do you know, I guess once we get the wordage, we'll put an email out to everybody saying what. Yeah, so hopefully we can do it. I would say no later than next week.
Okay, motion's been made and second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we'll move on to 10H. Approve submitted invoice for County Park project from Miller Construction. Invoice number 2160, amount of $74,976.
I make a motion to approve the invoice submitted.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Ooh.
Approve public safety recommendation regarding traffic speed on Main Street. Rose?
I don't know that we need to make any motion on this, but I did want to alert the board that we did have a public safety meeting because a concerned citizen remarked about a uptick in speeding, particularly amongst semis on the main drag through town here. And so we had Lieutenant Bradley Arndt come and talk with us and talk with the committee. And he gave us a couple of options. He said we could mount a speed board, which would then track the speeds, what time this is occurring. He could also have an unmarked car made available to ticket. At this point, what we're going to do is we're going to mount this speed board by the post office around that area, move it to each side of the street so that we're getting a full traffic flow. And then once they have that data available, we'll reconvene public safety, and then we will then make a recommendation to the board how to move forward.
Did they talk about speed bumps?
No.
Just the question. No? All
It's
right,
gonna be the
Whatever.
trailer. It's gonna be the speed trailer
Yeah.
that goes around, not
Yeah.
the ports like
The
we
mobile
have.
one, we can't.
Yeah,
Right, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be that big trailer once the snow is done. They said they can't bring it out if there's snow.
Okay.
so, yeah, that's,
That's it.
no, we don't need a
No.
motion.
Oh.
I'll move to adjourn.
okay,
So second.
yeah,
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.